Hi everyone, Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
Today, our amazing guest is Bethany Bennett, author of our July book of the month, West End Earl. And we enjoyed it so much. And so we're thrilled to have her here to talk to us. And then she's going to be doing a takeover of our page on the same day that you see this. So, yay. Thank you for being here, Bethany.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for highlighting Cal and Fee this month. That's awesome.
Oh, they're so good.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. So, I guess obviously we had you on the first time when you wrote your first book, Any Rogue Will Do, and we love Ethan and Lottie, and I loved seeing them in this book, and I especially loved when Lottie told everybody that they needed to get their shit together. That was really great. And so, but this was such a different type of story from that first one, and so it was really fun to get to see, everything that you're capable of. So yay, we loved it.
Thank you.
I know that you've said in the past that you wanted to write a book about, the misfits of Mayfair, so kind of people who didn't fully fit in, finding their happily ever afters. But did you know the kinds of misfits that you wanted to have in your series when you first started writing it?
No. Okay. Honestly, I think that Ethan and Lottie developed just very organically out of this. I had this one little idea, and then it became a book, and then I realized it had to be a series, and here we go, right? Cal was really loud on the page when I was writing the first one, and so I knew who he was going to be. He was just very much, boom, here you go. But and then when I started in on Cal's book, I realized who Emma was. And so there's no actual real overall plan to this. It's been as I go, I'm figuring it out. I knew that because I can do spoilers in this video, right? So
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay. So I knew that I wanted I knew that Emma was going to be basically a fake widow in order to be a single mom. Because in order to be a single mom during that time period, there were very limited circumstances in which you could do that and not be just completely ousted from society. So, so I knew that she was going to have a lot of secrets. I knew she was going to have, and I knew that she was going to be a single mom and a fake widow. And so, walking into her book, at least I knew that. But no, there's no grand plan in the beginning. I'm winging it.
So I guess that answers if you're a pantser or a plotter.
I pantsed the hell out of the first book, and then I had to rewrite it and revise over and over and over. And so with the second book, I tried to go a little bit more somewhere in the middle and so what I usually say is that I am the dad that's on the road trip with the family that knows where I'm going, but I'm completely lost and have no idea how to get there. And I refuse to ask for directions. So that is me, where I'm I know where I'm going. I just don't know how I'm getting there.
That's half the fun.
We got there in the end, right?
Yes,
we got there in the end.
Leads into my question about Emma. So I don't know if you watched any of our recap videos, but I had the word stupid Emma in my notes quite a lot because she was such a teenager. Oh my gosh. And so she was obviously very selfish. She goes through a lot of changes in this story, and I'm assuming there'll be even more when it comes to her book next. And so I guess you sort of answered a little bit about if you always knew she was going to get her own book, which was one of my questions. But did that affect how much info you put about her in this book versus how much you wanted to save for her story?
Yes. It helps that she and Cal come from the same family, being siblings.
Right.
His past trauma is very closely linked to her past trauma.
Right.
And so they both come from this really dysfunctional family, but it's impacted them in different ways. When you're talking about core wounds and stuff with Cal, he is desperately trying to make himself useful, and he feels responsible for saving everyone and from their myriad calamities around him, right? Emma's problem is she's terrified that she's exactly like her parents. And so that is what she is dealing with. And so we do obviously we get to mine deeper in that in the third book, but she's just been really, really fun to kind of get to know as I'm through the drafting process and now I'm into edits on her book, but yeah, it's been
I
fun.
guess in this book, in West End Earl, we don't really see her worrying about or trying to like go against the grain, as she's just kind of living her best life and not thinking, I mean, it doesn't seem out like she's thinking about the consequences, because
Exactly.
we see
Like
other
it
characters try to bring it up
right?
and she's like, no thanks.
Yeah, we get to see her where she is like her young and dumb is in full force. I mean, she's young, she's entitled, she's had everything she's ever wanted as far as material things go. She hasn't actually discovered what's really important and what's not. She's never really felt consequences to her actions before. And so you do definitely see like a big change for her. And she is just straight up a brat. I mean, like it's in the first portion of this book, she's a brat. I mean, there's like, and so it was a little bit scary trying to figure out like if you can make her redeemable enough by the end of the story that someone actually wants to see what her happy ever after looks like. I'm sure there'll be a portion of readers who just refuse to forgive her and they're like, screw this noise, and they just never pick up another book by me ever.
Well, that was one thing with Cal in this book too, is that he solved everybody's problems. So his dad was also very like that, where it was just like, I'll do what I want and then pass on the consequences to you, which
Exactly.
Right. It doesn't even occur to him that there will be consequences for anybody else because he doesn't care. He's just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And she basically does the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a question about Fee. A lot of pants, like heroine and pants stories, have the heroine, you know, kind of donning a disguise for a particular event or for like specific like periods of time. But Fee has been living as a boy slash man for more than half of her life by the time the book starts. Why did you decide to have Fee? I mean, it changes kind of the way that the story develops for her, because she doesn't really know how to be a girl or a woman. What made you decide to do that, to have her kind of take on this persona since childhood?
Her situation with her brother came in very, very early as far as the planning process, and then the natural repercussions of that just flowed. So I knew that realistically she wouldn't be like, I can't imagine anyone pulling off a scam, for lack of a better word, of that degree for that length of time if they weren't fully committed. Like, I can't imagine her being like splitting her time and still, you know, dressing up in gowns and having her little hope chest and everything else going in, you know, in private, but still like being this male persona in public. I didn't think that was necessarily feasible, and she wouldn't have the finances to be able to have a double life. Like, she had to fully sink into this. But then what ended up happening from that, because like I said, it's like, I know where I'm going, don't know how I'm getting there. So like, you do this and then it leads to this, and then it leads to this, and then it leads to this, until finally you're at where you're supposed to be. So I knew where I needed to get her. But what was kind of cool was that her story ended up being more about figuring out what parts of traditional femininity she was going to embrace, and who she actually was, and where she fit or didn't fit, and coming to grips with the things that didn't fit.
Yeah, I think she also is like not a voluptuous heroine, just different from Lottie, but she's, you know, she's got, so it was interesting to see her try to kind of transition her life from living as a man who has all these freedoms and who I think you mentioned in the book that, you know, it's not that hard for her to disguise her figure in the clothing that she's wearing, but then when she goes to buy gowns, she doesn't know what would suit her or what she should buy. So it's an interesting take. I don't know that I've seen that, at least not very often, done in that trope.
Yeah, a lot of times usually you have the heroine who is like bustier than she'd rather be, and she's just trying to disguise all of it. And part of Fee's thing was that she's like, No, actually, my body's built for this. I have a friend who was so lovely and so willing to be vulnerable, and have some very, very personal conversations. And I had her be basically a sensitivity reader for Fee's body, because obviously I don't have Fee's body. That is the particular mental paths that she would trod in that circumstance with that body type are not anything that I could possibly pull from personal experience, right? So I have a friend who is my sensitivity reader for Fee's body, because I 100% based her body type off of my friend, 100%. And so she read it for me, and in her dedication, like when I was signing her copy of her book, I was like, thanks for letting me borrow your boobs.
It's cute.
Yeah.
So I guess this sort of goes back to Emma a little bit, but we had a bit of a villain here in the story besides the main one, being the uncle, of course, in Roxbury, Emma's baby daddy. And we didn't really get to see him get any comeuppance. And I'm kind of wondering if he's going to pop back up again or what.
Yep. Yes. Roxbury is one of the, I don't want to say he's a main player, but you do see him, and he's part of the plot line of book 3.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we were, and actually in
so
our DM
tempting
group,
to kill him off.
waiting for him to.
Yeah, in our DM group, we're like, okay, this guy needs to get his just desserts. Because he is the worst.
He really is, isn't he? He really is. And on top of being the worst, he's kind of just a dummy. I mean, like, really, truly. Like, when I've realizing exactly how he's kind of like Cal in the sense that, like, he has one currency, like he uses his looks as currency, but unlike Cal, there's like nothing underneath. It is a pretty little paper human, and there's nothing in there. He's just shallow and a complete prick, but yeah.
He's a total knob.
I mean, but like, shallow is the one thing. He was pretty
terrible.
He was pretty terrible.
Self-serving.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
selfish. And actually, I think that kind of leads to a question that I think you were going to ask Marielle about the differences between Cal and Emma and how they're attracted to people.
Oh yeah, we had in the DM group somebody ask if Cal is demisexual, or if he read that way to anybody else, and so we're curious if that was a thing that was in the back of your mind when you wrote him. It was especially interesting to watch the way that Cal became attracted to Emma. I mean, to Fee, and the way that Emma was like, broad shoulders, excellent. Like she was like all in from the first waltz, whereas Cal, you see a lot of him kind of like looking at her, or like he describes Adam early in the book, and then it's when he starts having feelings for Fee, then the descriptions seem to change. So anyway, just about the way that you contrast and compare, please.
Contrast and compare. Yeah, Emma is 18 and horny. I mean, like, really, she's 18, she's entitled, she's beautiful, she's horny, she's gonna get what she wants. She has boobs, she knows how to use them. Cal, when I was writing him, I have a friend of mine who is Demi, and one of the things that, and I was talking to her about this, character, because I wanted Cal to have like a portion of his personality being the way that he's adapted from the massive issues with his parents, right? Is that he's not like a rogue. He's not a guy that just goes out and has a whole chain of mistresses, and he's extremely selective with his favors. At one point he was even a virgin hero, like as I was kind of going through the whole process, so but I have this friend who is Demi, and I was asking her about this, and because it really was kind of like in the back of my head, and one of the things she said was that as a demisexual, for her, at least her experience was that she would go from like, oh, this person's a nice human being to, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. Like everything about you is glittery and sparkly and I can't look away. And all I want to do is just be all in. And she says it really is just like flipping a switch, that like for her, when attraction happens, it's boom. And even if she's been with this person, whatever, but it's like a certain emotional element connects. And at that point they are completely irresistible. And I think a lot of that came through because that just resonated with me for Cal. So for marketing purposes, can I like market this as a he is demisexual and whatever? Not really, because I myself, I'm completely, my daughter, like she tells me that rulers could take lessons from me on how straight I am. And so it's really like, so I can't say that this is, I can't necessarily like market it that way, but when I was writing it, Cal was definitely demi in my head.
Our DM group will be very interested to know that. Yeah, that was a big topic of discussion, so that's great.
But again, I used sensitivity readers for that aspect of it, because yeah, you do have to kind of be cautious and aware when you're writing outside of your lane.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't call him, or it's not like named or labeled in any way, but
No,
it was interesting that some of the people who were reading were kind of like,
yeah,
I love that people are picking up on it. It makes me happy because yeah, it isn't named on the page, and
no, but definitely seeing it side by side with Emma, it's really clear that they have a very different way of approaching like attraction and like romantic feelings, but also like sexual attraction. She's
and the ability to separate romantic feelings and sexual attraction. Like, I think in a lot of ways, Emma would do just fine in 2020, 2021. Like she would be that friend that's like, oh yeah, this guy that I hooked up with last night. And you're like, are you going to call him again? She'd be like, why would I do that? I'd be like, that's Emma. And so
especially after her first experience being what it was, then after that, the two things are like completely divorced, I would think.
Yes.
So yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see her weave that back together in her own book.
Yes.
Yeah, because she really is not. It's interesting because it's not Emma's story, but we get a lot of kind of what's gone on with her, and it'll be interesting to see it through her own eyes because we see it through.
Right, we see her, but we don't see her internal thoughts.
Yeah, we just see from other people, through the lens of other people's point of view, what she is doing and how she could, like she really revels in being like a popular with the gentleman, even from I think from the very first page. It's like,
yep.
She's
like, I'm at Almax and I'm waltzing and I'm beautiful and life is grand. And oh, his head is on my ass.
Possibly go wrong.
Yeah. She's just a recipe from disaster from the first page.
So we did have, I think with Cal, we talked about how much he takes care of everybody else. And I did think it was interesting that you paired him with a heroine who's so independent and has such a hard time asking for help or even accepting help that's offered to her. Was that in like by design that you were like, who can I pair with someone who's very helpful?
Yes.
Someone who doesn't want his help.
Yes.
Because like, yeah, when you're planning and you're figuring out your characters, there's a character mock-up sheet that my publisher makes me do, and I hate it so much. I absolutely, every single time I bitch and moan, every time. But unfortunately it's really useful. And one of the I hate it when they're right too, but yeah, but part of it is you say like, how are they perfect for each other, and then how are they the worst for each other? And that was, like you have this guy he juggles, he's a problem solver, he fixes, that's what he does. He's immediately there, like Johnny on the spot to help. He will do anything for the people that he cares about. What's the worst possible thing that you could pair him with? Is some chick who's like, no, I got this.
Even when she totally doesn't got this.
I think my favorite was
Bleeding
when
head
she
wounds?
showed
No,
up
it's
to,
fine. I got it.
yeah. I think my favorite was when she showed up to say goodbye with her like pillow, and that was it. And and the butler's like, "You all right?" And she's like, "Fine."
You're like, maybe you
okay.
can take a
Put it
nap.
down.
It's the middle of the night.
So
She's just like so determinedly solo. She is like lone wolf in her head. And
Well,
but then
like
she
her
kind of looks,
solution to like my life is falling apart is like, okay, I guess I should abandon everything I've built and all my friendships and go somewhere where no one knows me so I can be alone. I'm like,
yes.
oh, okay.
you're like,
She's
that
like,
is
well, clearly this isn't
awkward.
working. I'll just leave it all. In some ways, she's a very black and white kind of personality where it's like, well, this current circumstance isn't working. Obviously, I need to change everything.
Right, like no one thing at a time, dominoes for her. It's like all or
No.
nothing. Yeah.
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 Wipe the slate clean, start over. And then Kyle is very like, I'll fix it for you. You sit over here. It was interesting to see kind of like from her going from like being his right hand man to then being like, oh no, I will take care of you. And just how many problems that change in their dynamic like created between them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because I mean that's well, if you think about it, if you've been impersonating a man, living as a male persona, right, for safety reasons, for the last decade, and then this person that you're closest to suddenly starts treating you different because now he knows that you're actually female. And it's kind of that whole like, they're there, I'll take care of it. She'd be like, what the hell? I mean, like it's not gonna be a comfortable transition for anyone involved.
Yeah. Well, and not even, I felt like with Cal, sorry, it might have been partially because she was female, but also because he like moved Fee from like right hand man, like person who helps me with things to like family or like I care about this person.
And everyone
So
I care about needs my help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my love language is I'll fix all your things and you just sit
Yes.
over here and look pretty like dad and
Mhm.
To be fair, that's like literally all he knows. Both his mom is not in his life anymore, and the other two that are you sit there and look pretty and I'll take care of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that, but you're totally right.
No, I
You
mean
are.
it took a very like frustratingly long amount of time for him to even consider like, oh, maybe this isn't my problem.
Yeah. Hi, Sherlock. Sorry, we have a cameo. So yeah, but no, you're right that I think that was and it's something even I hadn't actually connected to, that he shifted from this person is a friend and useful to this is now like friend type, family type friend, and he treats them very different. There's a different dynamic there, and she's not happy about it.
No, she did not.
Understandably so.
So I guess I can hit off with my question I always ask everyone, which is, what is your favorite trope to read?
Okay, there are two. One I have a super toxic relationship with. I love time travel, but I don't want like sci-fi fantasy time travel. I want straight up romance time travel, and it can't be to the medieval time period because knights piss me off. So they drive me bonkers. I don't know why, but they've always driven me bonkers. And so, but I love time travel, and yet I am so incredibly picky about it. So 9 times out of 10, I'm like really disappointed by it, but I can't resist it. I can't resist. I have to try it. And so, a time
You'll
travel
have to read
romance.
One Last Stop, then.
Yeah.
By Casey McQuiston. It's a weird take on the time.
It's like a time slip almost, right?
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
And so okay,
there's like there's a girl on the train, and
she's stuck.
she's actually stuck there from the 70s. So it's like modern
Oh,
time and
cool.
70s.
That's fun. Okay. Yes, definitely. Writing. I will write that down. And yeah. Yes, please. So yeah. So time
No
travel
knights
is
involved.
like no knights. Men who deliberately cover themselves in metal. Like,
But why though?
but why? Exactly.
I
I
mean, because
mean,
of maces and stuff.
I went through or like, you know, thick leather and everything. I'm like, I went through a leather pants phase in my 20s. Okay. There is like nothing actually appealing about what's going on underneath the leather. There's nothing at all. We're talking about swamp crack that would be absolutely insane in a time when they don't like to bathe. Ew. Clearly I have opinions. But so yes. So time
So what
travel.
was the other one?
The other one though is Ugly Duckling Stories. I love the Ugly Duckling trope, which is I think there were some Ugly Duckling vibes in West End Earl, but I love an Ugly Duckling story. And I think it's because, you know, I very much relate to it. I mean, my awkward phase lasted until I was like 26. I really relate to an Ugly Duckling story.
My favorite Ugly Duckling story. I think it might be Melt for You by J.T. Gissinger. Have you read that?
Okay, no, you guys have to just text me these book titles when we're done, and I'm gonna go shopping, and that's how this is gonna work. Okay.
We also have pretty, I mean, it's like our tastes. There's a Venn diagram of our tastes, but
Yeah,
we
for sure.
still, there's a lot of stuff that we read that's like different. So
Yeah.
you might get very divergent like recommendations. If you're
I love that
separate.
though. I think that that's actually a really great service that you offer your, you know, the people who watch, because you guys don't always agree on everything, you know? And so yeah, you can both, I think you can cover a much wider spectrum of the genre that way. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you have a trope that you have a love-hate relationship with, Marielle? I was just thinking of mine when she was talking about
You say yours because now I'm like,
oh, mine is second chance romance.
Yes.
It's very love-hate for me. Like sometimes it works for me perfectly and sometimes I'm like, nope. Like I don't know what it is, and I never know going in if I'm gonna like it or not. And I just keep trying.
that's interesting.
As a woman who's been divorced twice,
I guess
if the second chance is after a divorce, I automatically pass.
You automatically
I automatically pass.
Oh, really?
If the second chance is after a divorce. I can't. I've been divorced twice. I just look at that and I can't separate like real life from fiction. And I just look at that and go, hell no. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Like maybe to push it off a cliff and feed it to sharks. But I mean, like, no. So sorry to interrupt, Lenny.
You're fine. I think for me, it's probably enemies to lovers. There might be some other ones, but enemies to lovers, for me, I like when there's tension and when there's like a thing that, you know, like maybe hurt feelings that are unresolved, but I don't like when they're just mean to each other, which used to happen a lot. Like there's some old Joanna Lindsay books and other books where it's like enemies to lovers and they're just like
so mean. Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, no, that's like, I'm not going to fall in love with you if you're mean to me.
Right?
The whole concept of slap, slap, kiss. No. Yeah. I'm with you on that one, especially some of the old school applications of it.
Yeah. I think now people try to, but like those bully, like in the dark, because they're mean. And I'm just like, I don't.
That's not sexy. It's not for me anyway. Everyone has,
I think the only thing that's worked for me is where like the bullying stuff happened when they were like kids, like in high school or whatever, and they meet again way later and he's actually like remorseful. That's the only time it's ever worked for me. It doesn't work for me when he's still a dick.
So for me, I read, which one was it? It was People We Meet on Vacation. She has a person who bullied her in like from middle school and into high school, and she was just and they meet again. It's not the hero. He's just like, oh, it was terrible and I have kids now, I'm trying to raise them to not be terrible. And I was like, nice. Now you can maybe be like acquaintances / friends. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like, he wasn't the hero.
He was
so
the
I'm
hero,
like,
right?
I'm like, how nice that you guys were able to like clear the air a little bit. Now go your separate
Now
ways.
go away. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So my question that I ask everybody is, if we were to be a fly on the wall while you're in the middle of your writing process, what would we see?
Okay, this makes me laugh because for people that don't realize, Lenny is part of my critique group, so she is often the fly on the wall. And she gets the disgruntled Marco Polo messages where I'm like, I'm quitting it all and I'm gonna go be a waitress at Denny's, and I don't care that there's not a Denny's for 75-mile radius. I'm gonna go be a waitress at Denny's on commute, damn it. And so she gets all of that nonsense. And so,
To be fair, it's not that. I don't know if you've ever said Denny's.
I have said Denny's. I have said Denny's. It's now part of like my process where I'm like, oh good, we're at the breakdown portion of the program. We should be rounding a curve anytime now. Yeah, no, honestly, like as far as like day to day, when I'm in the thick of it, I have a tendency to hyper focus. That is the useful side of the ADD coin, is hyper focus. So it's a little bit machine-like, honestly. When I'm drafting, okay, I bitch and moan the entire time through edits, because ADD and edits are just very, very meticulous, and I'm not by nature an analytical reader, so breaking story out into components and structure, it does not come naturally to me, and I'm still actively learning, and I whine the entire time. But drafting, I usually will have an earbud in that has a speaker, and I dictate, and I'm dictating while I'm driving. I'm dictating while I am doing dishes. I'm dictating while I'm I do a lot of multitasking, and I just sink into the story, but I still have real life to do. So there's a lot of like mommying while writing. And because I can dictate, I don't dictate the entire book, but there are large portions that I will, that it does kind of seem like machine-like, where it's like all I do is like all of the things at once, and I'm writing on top of it in the middle of it. So I'm not fun when I'm drafting at all.
I don't know how you do that. Also, I bought a little dictation, a dictaphone, because Bethany was like, I dictate.
I was like, this is what I do. This little
First of all, I
yeah.
feel very silly trying to like talk my stories. And also, yeah, I'm like, I don't know how you do other things and also dictate. It's a skill.
Yeah, I have to go back. Part of the editing process and the transcription process is taking out the mommy bits that have nothing to do with the story but end up in the recording. Like there was, I was dictating
No,
while
don't touch that.
don't touch that. Why are you bleeding? Ew, what is that? And it's like inevitably in the middle of a steamy scene. I mean, like there's like, so I was when my son, it was during the I can't remember, it doesn't matter. Anyways, we have a cemetery near our house, and there's these wide, perfectly groomed, beautifully paved paths, right? So if you need to have your kid entertained riding his bike for an extended period of time and not worry about traffic, that's where we go. And for the longest time, he called it gardens. We're going to go to the gardens because there's flowers everywhere, and it's lovely and beautiful, and all manicured and pretty. And but yeah, so it was like the middle of a sex scene with Lottie and Ethan in the first book. And then in the middle of my transcription, I went off on this, no baby, that's there's a dead body under there, and we need to be respectful of the family that is going to be visiting. We don't play with their things. I know dead people can't see flowers. I know, love. I'm like, this entire thing of me talking about respecting headstones and gravestones, and that someone's dead there and there's a body under your feet. Please be nice. Like, oh my gosh. in the middle of a sex scene with Lottie and Ethan. So that's like half the fun, is going back and going, what were we doing? Good God, what were we doing when I was doing this? What am I talking about?
So you dictate, And then you listen back and type it in, or does it automatically, or do
I've
you
done
do that
both.
like Dragon? Okay.
I've done both ways. I have Dragon Naturally Speaking. I'm still trying to kind of get a hang for it. And some days, depending on the background noise, Dragon doesn't work well for me. But the one thing that's a surefire is that little digital dictaphone, because then you just, plug in your earbuds into it and you just transcribe what you were saying. And then at least you're not going back and fixing what your program thought you said.
That's what I did, is I tried to do a transcribing thing.
Like speech to text situation.
Yeah, but just in the, because actually like Word will do it, and
Yeah.
Apple like has a thing that will do it, like when you text. But
Right.
there were a bunch of things that I was like, what was I saying? Because it was not this. But also,
what else could this word be?
Random capitalizations too. Random capitalized words. And Google still thinks that Cal's book is actually cow, like moo, cow. So I had an entire romance about a cow for a while. Like it.
Nice.
Adventures in Dictation. Yes.
That's so funny.
It is. Well, that I guess wraps up, right? Our questions.
Yeah,
so tell us, where can the people find you, and also what's coming up next?
Okay, so people can find me on Instagram. I'm Bethany Writes Kissing Books. On Twitter, I don't hang out on Twitter very often, but Instagram is really my jam. Twitter is Bethany Romance. I'm Bethany Historical Romance on Facebook, and I have a private reader group there that's called The Beehive. Honestly, if you go to my page on Instagram, I have a LinkedIn, and all of my stuff is there. You can also find my website at BethanyBennettAuthor.com. I think that's everything. Pretty sure that's everything. I think that's everything. And then I'm as of now, I'm refusing to get on TikTok just because I can't handle one more platform. But my daughter's really active on there, so maybe someday I'll cave because I have a live-in tutorial. But otherwise, I'm lost. What comes next? I am in edits for Emma's book. And then once we're through edits, then my publisher and I and my editor and I can start talking about what the next series looks like. And I have a couple different options there. So we will see what ends up coming of it.
Cool. Emma's book is coming in 2022, is that right?
May of 22.
Yeah.
May of 22. So
less than a year away. Exciting.
It's less than a year away now. Yes. Yeah.
10 months.
Also, I think I heard you say in another interview that it's a boat captain hero, and I am very excited about that.
Okay, so if you've read Any Rogue Will Do, at the very, very end, like literally, like it's in the epilogue, when Cal is disposing of Montague, the sketchy sea captain, that's the hero of book 3.
Yay!
Malachi is absolutely delicious.
I love a sea captain. I'm very
so much fun. He's like bearded and scruffy and tattooed all to hell and back, and he's delicious.
Yes, I can't.
I mean,
wait.
you just read that Tessa Bailey book with the sea captain.
Of course, I love. Oh my
god,
god,
that one yet.
It hasn't read summer. You need to read that
That's
too.
really
Add it to your list. That was that was magic. I love that book so much.
Yeah, I love Tessa Bailey, so it was already kind of like lurking in my TBR, but I haven't actually purchased it yet.
Really fantastic.
Nice.
And I have never even seen Schitt's Creek yet. Like it's on my list of things.
You haven't?
But I've never even seen
that.
it. So even if you love that show, you're definitely gonna love this book. And I still loved it, and I didn't even have that background, so it was great.
Schitt's Creek is one of those
I feel like
shows.
it stands alone, but definitely if you have watched Schitt's Creek and are familiar with Alexis Rose, you would see the inspiration there.
Right.
There's some stuff that's really cute. I love how she did that book.
Great.
Nice.
But also sea captains, yes.
Yes, Brendan.
Sea captains.
Very delicious sea captain.
All right, and though we're still not doing in-person things very often, but you do sign books for one of your local independent
Yes.
bookstores, right?
In my LinkedIn, there is a link for signed copies. It's not just signed copies of West End Earl. You can get signed copies of any Rogue will do through them as well. That's Auntie's Bookstore in Spokane, and they have signed copies on the shelf right now. So if you want to go ahead and just grab a signed copy, then they are super easy peasy. You'll be supporting an indie and all those good things. So yeah.
All right, well, I guess that's all the things.
Yes, thank you
Think
so
so.
much.
Thank you, ladies. It's fun. This has been super fun.
Thanks, everyone. And Bethany,
Okay.
when you are seeing this, Bethany will be taking over our page on Saturday. So hope you come by and say hello.
Yes,
Thanks,
please.
everyone.
Don't let me be lonely.
Bye.
Bye.